Lake Najaf was once one of central Iraq's most valuable water resources, a natural inland lake that helped sustain communities, industries, and the ecological balance of the region. Today, the story of this lake is becoming a stark illustration of how drought, upstream water policies, and climate change are reshaping daily life for Iraqis. What was previously a dependable body of water has now shrunk dramatically, losing more than 10,000 acres of its surface area. Local environmentalists warn that the lake is deteriorating faster than previously imagined, turning what used to be a thriving natural asset into a fragile and shrinking remnant of its past. For the families who rely on it, especially salt harvesters, the lake's decline has transformed their livelihood into a daily struggle. These workers continue to gather salt from the shallow areas that remain, relying on whatever water is left to form crystals that can then be collected and processed. Many have spent years mastering this work, but the conditions they face now are dramatically different from the ones they inherited. The amount of salt they are able to produce has fallen sharply, and the quality of the product is also changing as the lake continues to shrink. One of the harvesters, Hassan Hamed, describes the core challenge with clarity and a sense of resignation built on years of experience. Water scarcity is our main problem. If there are more water quantities, production will be greater. The more water we have, the better quality of the salt gets. Salt production is just like agriculture. His comparison captures the essence of the crisis. Water is not just helpful, it is essential. Without it, the salt industry that once supported so many families becomes fragile, inconsistent, and increasingly unsustainable. But the decline of Lake Najaf is not only a local tragedy, it is a symptom of a much larger regional problem. Iraq has been grappling with water shortages for decades, driven by climate change, decreased rainfall, and upstream damming by neighboring countries. These factors have combined to reduce the flow of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, drying out wetlands, shrinking lakes, and putting enormous pressure on agricultural and industrial sectors. In places like Najaf, where local industries rely directly on natural water sources, the effects are immediate and deeply personal. Hassan speaks again, explaining that the future depends on political decisions far beyond the lake itself. Water could return, provided the Iraqi government reaches an agreement with the Turkish government on water sharing. Even if it does return, 3 lakes will need 2 years to fill up. Only after those 2 years, water might reach the southern region. His comments point to the geopolitical dimension of Iraq's water crisis. Without cooperative regional agreements, even the best environmental management efforts will fall short. Water scarcity in Iraq is as much a diplomatic issue as it is a climatic one, and communities like those around Lake Najaf live with the consequences of stalled negotiations. The shrinking lake also affects other long-standing local industries. One of the most traditional is the use of salt for tanning and preserving animal hides. This process depends heavily on a stable supply of salt, and as the lake yields less, tanners face increasing uncertainty. Salt is used to dry hides, prevent bacterial growth, and prepare them for treatment. If salt availability continues to decline, the tanning industry, already small and labor-intensive, will face its own existential threat. Many of the workers involved in tanning learned the trade from previous generations, and they fear that an entire craft could be lost if environmental conditions do not stabilize. The environmental decline also carries serious health implications. As water becomes shallow and more concentrated with minerals, pollution levels rise. Medical experts in Najaf have been monitoring the effects carefully. Sundus Abdul Adel, who heads the Cancer Control Division in the Najaf Health Department, explains the risks. When salinity level in the river increases, the proportion of bacteria and fungi also increases, and the concentration of toxic and harmful heavy metals will rise, negatively affecting our health. Her warning is part of a broader concern across Iraq, where water contamination has already caused major public health emergencies. High salinity not only affects drinking water, but it also impacts irrigation, livestock, and soil health, creating a chain reaction that touches nearly every aspect of life. As Iraq experiences more extreme weather patterns, the strain on its water resources is worsening. Heat waves have become more intense, evaporation rates are rising, and rainfall patterns have shifted unpredictably. These changes put additional pressure on lakes like Najaf, accelerating their decline. Farmers, herders, and rural communities across the country face similar challenges, and many have already migrated towards cities in search of stable work and water supplies. The environmental change is contributing to social and demographic shifts that are reshaping regions far beyond Najaf. Lake Najaf's story also highlights the challenges of water management within Iraq itself. Outdated irrigation systems, inefficient storage infrastructure, and limited investment in water-saving technologies have left the country vulnerable. While the government has announced multiple projects aimed at improving water management, implementation remains slow and often disrupted by budget constraints or political instability. The salt harvesters of Najaf cannot wait for long-term reforms. They live with the consequences now, each season producing less than the one before. What is happening in Najaf reflects a wider crisis happening globally. Across the Middle East and beyond, lakes and rivers are shrinking at alarming rates. Climate change is altering natural water cycles, while population growth and industrial demands stretch resources further. In many regions, water scarcity is no longer a distant warning but a current reality. Iraq, with its ancient history rooted in the waterways of Mesopotamia, now finds itself confronting a future where water could become one of its rarest resources. Despite the severity of the crisis, the people of Najaf continue to work with resilience. Salt harvesters still venture out each morning to gather whatever the lake can offer. Tanners continue coating hides, preserving the craft even as supplies fluctuate. Environmentalists track changes closely, urging authorities to take urgent action. Health officials warn of the consequences of inaction. Their combined voices reflect both the gravity of the situation and the determination to endure it. But the future of Lake Najaf will depend on several factors: regional water sharing agreements, national infrastructure improvements, shifting climate patterns, and international cooperation. Without meaningful intervention, the lake could continue shrinking until salt harvesting becomes impossible and the ecological system collapses completely. If action is taken, restoration remains possible, but it will not be quick or easy. As Hassan pointed out, even under the best circumstances, it could take years for water levels to recover enough to support the surrounding communities. The crisis forces difficult questions about what comes next. How will families survive if their livelihoods disappear? What economic alternatives will be available in regions where agriculture and natural resource industries fail? What will happen to traditional crafts tied to these landscapes? And how will Iraq address a growing public health risk linked directly to environmental decline? Lake Najaf today stands at a crossroads. It is a living reminder of the consequences of climate stress and political inaction, but also a symbol of the resilience found in Iraq's rural communities. The salt harvesters' work, the tanners' efforts, and the concerns raised by health officials all underscore a shared truth. Water is not just a resource, but the foundation of life, economy, and stability. The lake's receding shoreline is more than an environmental footprint. It is a warning. Its decline illustrates how quickly essential resources can disappear when climate change and geopolitical tensions collide. Yet within this unfolding crisis, there is also a call to action, a chance to rethink water policy, rebuild infrastructure, and prioritize environmental sustainability before the damage becomes irreversible. In the stories of Hassan and Sundus, and in the perseverance of those who continue to work around the lake, there is both urgency and determination. Lake Najaf may be shrinking, but the people of Najaf continue to hold on to hope. Hope that agreements can be reached, that water can return, and that the livelihoods shaped by this lake for generations will not be lost forever.